All right, today we are diving into one of Nassim Nicholas Taleb's absolute biggest ideas, anti-fragility. And trust me, this is a concept that could completely change how you look at problems, at chaos, and, well, at life itself. So let's get right into it.
You've heard this a million times, right? It's the classic metaphor for how we deal with the tough stuff, all those random, stressful things that life just loves to throw at us.
And, the usual advice is to be resilient. You take the hit, you bounce back, you get back to where you started. But what if just getting back to normal is, well, kind of aiming too low? What if you could actually do better?
This is where Taleb flips the whole script. He says you can be the candle, fragile, delicate, easily snuffed out by a little bit of chaos, or you can be the fire.
It's not about just surviving the wind. It's about using that wind to grow bigger, to burn brighter, to become even more powerful. That's not resilience. That is something else entirely.
Okay, so to really understand how to become the fire, we first need to get Taleb's basic framework. He pretty much says everything in the world can be sorted into one of three buckets when it's faced with stress.
And here it is, the big one, anti-fragile. It's not about being tough or resisting shocks. It's about actively benefiting from them. It feeds on chaos.
Now, this table just lays it out perfectly. Look at the fragile column. A teacup. You drop it, it shatters. It hates stress. Then you've got robust. Think of a rock. It just sits there, it resists the stress, sure, but it doesn't change. But the real magic is in that anti-fragile column. A system like our own immune system actually improves with stress. You get exposed to germs, and it learns, it adapts, it gets stronger. It's a lot like what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. Some stressors can actually make us better.
Here's a super simple way to get this. Think about air travel. When you add randomness, bad weather, a mechanical problem, the outcome can only get worse. You can be 8 hours late, but have you ever landed 8 hours early? Nope. There's all this downside, but basically zero upside. That, in a nutshell, is a fragile system.
So, that's how it works for systems. But what does this look like in people? Well, Taleb has this fantastic analogy for it: the tourist versus the adventurer.
The tourist has everything planned to the minute. If the bus is late, it's a total disaster. The whole plan shatters. They're fragile. The adventurer, on the other hand, sees a late bus as an opportunity. It's not a problem, it's a chance to wander down a side street, discover a cool little cafe, and have an experience they never planned. They are anti-fragile. They actually gain from a little bit of randomness.
And you can see this play out on a massive scale. Take Singapore. It had nothing, no space, no resources. That exact stress forced it to upregulate, to innovate, to get creative, to become this global powerhouse. Now compare that to countries that were just blessed with tons of natural resources. They didn't have that same fire lit under them to adapt and change. A little bit of stress can be a powerful motivator.
Okay, so if stressors can be good for us, why do so many of our modern systems seem built to protect us from them? Let's talk about school.
Now, Taleb makes a really provocative point here. He argues that school often rewards you for following a perfect plan and doing well in a totally predictable setting. But this can create a pretty narrow path, which can make people super fragile when they finally hit the messy, unpredictable real world.
And hey, it seems like Mark Twain was onto this idea a long, long time ago. He knew that the real education, the stuff that gets you ready for life's curveballs, often happens way outside the classroom.
So the real key is the alternative. I'm talking about things like apprenticeships, where you learn by actually doing, by tinkering, by messing up, and trying again. And being an autodidact, a self-teacher who just reads everything and follows their curiosity. These are the paths that really embrace trial and error, and that's what builds anti-fragility.
So, how do we actually start building this mindset? Well, this brings us to an ancient philosophy that Taleb says is basically the ultimate guide to being anti-fragile: Stoicism. Now, I know what you're thinking. Most people picture a Stoic as some emotionless robot who just shuts everything down and detaches from the world. But that is a complete misunderstanding of what the philosophy was all about.
Taleb's reframing of this is just brilliant. A true Stoic isn't someone who feels nothing. No way. They are an alchemist. They take the lead of bad experiences and turn it into gold. Fear becomes careful planning. Pain becomes useful information. Mistakes become the start of a brand new adventure.
The Roman philosopher Seneca is the perfect example. I mean, this guy was the richest man in the Roman world, but he was terrified of becoming dependent on it all. So he developed a system. He would literally practice being poor, living on next to nothing, just to prove to himself that he could handle it. Every night, he'd mentally lose everything he owned. So when he woke up in the morning, everything he still had felt like a pure bonus. He got to enjoy the upside of his wealth, but he had systematically engineered the fear of losing it right out of his life. He was truly anti-fragile.
So, how can we actually put these massive ideas into practice? Let's boil it all down into 4 simple rules we can all live by. Okay, number 1, do hard things. Seriously, the things that give your life meaning aren't going to be the easy days. They're going to be the challenges you overcame. 2, be a flaneur. That's a French word for someone who just wanders around a city. The idea is to leave some open space in your day. Don't overschedule everything. That's where opportunity hides. 3, develop an anti-education. Like Jim Rohn said, formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune. And 4, do what Seneca did. Practice a little self-denial. Intentionally live with less every now and then to vaccinate yourself against the fear of losing it.
You know, at the end of the day, the goal of all of this is to stop being a pawn of randomness. It's about setting up your life so you can take whatever fate throws at you and actually use it to your advantage. It's about having the final say.
And we'll end on this powerful challenge from Seneca. What would happen if you just decided to face your worst fears, even just for a few days? You might just discover that the thing you were so terrified of wasn't really that scary after all. And that discovery, that is freedom.